All right, folks, there is a whole lot of stuff going on. And yes, I am in a different spot other than my studio. I'm in my trailer down by the ocean. And I'll tell you why. Because if Mark Carney and Liberals win this election, I'm building a raft and I am sailing off to Japan. I'll figure it out. I might get lost, but I'm doing it. But in all seriousness, we do have a lot to talk about, such as the Bank of Canada announcing essentially nothing. Doug Ford saying he's been a conservative since before Moses. Kind of weird. And CBC goes to the White House and humiliates himself. So yeah, you're going to want to stick around for this full video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We are very close to 500,000 subscribers. It'd be pretty sweet if we got there sooner than later. And since talking about sooner than later, it's almost time. It's almost the end of the time for people to get their stickers, such as the one here on my microphone, or like what we're about to take a look at on screen. The time is now to get your stickers before the election. Folks, you can get this sticker pack with 20% off when you use code SAVECANADA. The link is down below in the description or the pinned comment below. And without further ado, let's get right into this video, starting off with CBC and the fact that they went to the White House to talk about the 51st state and talk about tariffs and auto sector and everything that's going on. And it kind of backfired, but I'll leave up to you to decide on who wins this and who loses this. My opinion is obviously CBC takes the big L.
Just if we can zoom in on this. That's Katie right there in the White House briefing room asking the question. You were able to ask the press secretary today. What did you learn from all of this?
Yeah, I can't see the photo that you put up there, but those press briefing rooms are pretty packed, and so it's pretty competitive to try to get a question. And so, because everyone, just imagine it, it's a room full of reporters that are, reporting back to, dozens and dozens of journalists, news agencies all around the world. And today, I happened to get a couple of questions in. The first question I wanted to ask about was tariffs, because of course, the Canadian economy relies so heavily on trade with the United States, and so I asked about that first, and then sort of a question that has sort of been nagging at Canadians. Some Canadians think, why would I ask a question about annexation when Donald Trump hasn't talked about it? But that's exactly what I wanted to know, is why hasn't he talked about it? Has something changed? Anyway, have a listen. Tariffs first.
Yeah,
Canada
why would
second,
you bring that back up?
Annexation second. Have a listen.
Yesterday, in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you there, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility. And he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first. And we had automakers and auto workers here at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America. And the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well.
So Trump had said in the Oval Office on Monday that he was looking at getting some help to car makers because they need a little bit more time. It was unclear whether he meant that there could be some sort of pause for the tariffs on the auto sector that are in place right now, or whether it would be related to the upcoming tariffs on auto parts, foreign auto parts that are supposed to take effect in May. Any sort of changes or pause or anything could have significant impact on Canadian jobs, Canadian auto plants, that kind of thing. nothing. So in terms of what the president said on Monday, there's no further explanation or anything new from the president on that. And then when it comes to, what Donald Trump has said many times in the past, he sort of eased off on that rhetoric, and I wanted to know why. Is it on purpose? Has he changed his mind? Was he irked by Justin Trudeau and only said it to get under Justin Trudeau's skin, or is there something different going on here? So that's why I wanted to know why. Anyway, so
psychoanalyzing, right? If President Trump talks about the 51st state comments, then oh my goodness, wow, that's crazy. Why is he talking about it? If he stops talking about it, these people are looking, why isn't he talking about it? Oh, or is it really going to happen, or is he over it? Like, just live with the fact that he's not talking about it. Why are you trying to psychoanalyze and return that rhetoric that you guys hate so much? The CBC is literally looking to, you get punched in the face and then you get stopped punching. No one punches you in the face anymore. And it's like, hey, are we still deserving of being punched in the face? What's going on? Or are we done with that? Like, come on, man. It's just weird. It's weird. Almost like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing.
That she says that his position is not changed in this moment.
Okay, that's going to be a thunderbolt into this campaign, Katie. But when it comes to the broader trade war, because it changes on the regular, what is the White House saying today?
The White House had a direct message for Beijing today saying the ball is in China's court, essentially saying it's going to be up to Beijing to reach out at this point. And that the Caroline Leavitt saying the point is that, China needs to make a deal with the United States. The United States doesn't need to make a deal with China. Remember, China is the biggest target of Donald Trump's trade war.
What blows my mind is the fact that here in Canada, we don't even talk about the Chinese tariffs and how that's affecting us. They've got like 100+% tariffs on our farmers in Canada, and we're not talking about it. We're only concerned about American tariffs, and this is maybe something that I should do a better job at on this channel, is talking about it. But I state broadcasted media, CBC, why aren't you guys talking about the fact that China is literally driving such a massive wedge into our farmers? Seems a little bit disingenuous. That's my opinion, folks. I'd love to know what you guys think about CBC attending the White House and asking questions, and who you think came out on top. Now we're going to take a look at a hilariously tragic story for one of the political parties in Canada. The Green Party is very much about to lose their official party status. I can't help but smile. Elizabeth May has been uninvited to participate in the political debates. The French one is happening tonight, and the English one is happening tomorrow. Let's take a look.
2 hours earlier than originally scheduled, there is a major breaking development in terms of the leaders participating in the debate tonight and again in English tomorrow. The Leaders Debates Commission is rescinding its invitation to Green Party co-leader Jonathan Pedneau. The commission explains the Green Party no longer meets the criteria to participate, and that participation would undermine the integrity of the debates as well as the interests of the voting public. Now, according to Radio-Canada, receiving a text message from Jonathan Pedneau himself, the party is going to respond to all of this at some point this morning. But let's go through to Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Janice, you and I were speaking all through the program so far this morning of how it was controversial now, given what we know about the Green Party's not meeting those official 3 criteria to participate. Let's talk about the decision to rescind the invitation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a 2-party election. We all know this, right? Maxime Bernier hasn't met the qualifications. Maxime Bernier may not win another seat for the PPC. The Green Party is about to lose their official status as a party and be lumped in with the PPC. And you also have the NDP with Jagmeet Singh in a very similar boat. People no longer want those smaller party options. You have so much people that are gravitating towards 2 parties in Canada, either the Conservatives or the Liberals. And right now, even you're seeing the Bloc Québécois, apparently, according to these polls, these freaking weird liberal made up polls, even the Bloc Québécois is losing tremendous amount of seats. And according to Nanos and Ecos, things that seem a little bit fraudulently manipulated, right? At least that's my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I've been monitoring the polls and social trends, and I can tell you the Liberals have a uptick since Trudeau's left, but not this big of an uptick. It doesn't make any sense at all. Even the Bloc Québécois is apparently, according to these analysts, really on the downtrend. So you could very much have where the NDP was, you could have that as the block, right? With like 10 seats or 12 seats or something very, very small. And then the rest is literally divvied up between Conservatives and Liberals. And that's just how Canada seems to be wanting to function right now. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, never a dull moment in this election, right, Heather? Always another twist here. Look, the criteria was clear. The Green Party needed to be running candidates in at least 90% of the ridings across Canada in order for its leader to participate tonight and tomorrow night. The simple fact is they did not actually get that many Green candidates on the ballots across the country. And so in its statement this morning, the Debates Commission says that because the party intentionally, interesting word there, intentionally reduced the number of candidates it was running for strategic reasons. The statement says it no longer meets the intention of the rules that were set. Now, it also goes on to say that whether or not the party originally intended to run 343 candidates, that would be someone in every riding. As you know, it first said it would have at least 340 candidates. It apparently had submitted those names some 27, 28 days, in advance as required. The fact is, in the end, the voters will no longer have that many Green candidates to choose from across the country. The decision not to run in some ridings out of a fear of strategic, vote splitting concerns, as sort of had said in particular places, the Greens apparently were worried about helping to elect Conservatives because their vote would peel off votes of others who could beat a Conservative. That, the Commission's statement said, is inconsistent with the criteria that was set for a party's national viability. And so it is judging that including the Green Party leader under these circumstances, as you say, would undermine the integrity of the debates and the interests of the voting public. Green Party leader Jonathan Pedneau spoke to CBC News yesterday when it was becoming clear that they were not going to meet this criteria. He was quite defensive about this. He was saying that he wanted to be talking about his party's policies, that he did not want to be talking about the party's tactics or its internal politics right now. But the consequence of them not meeting this very clear bar and running as many candidates as they had originally pledged is that he's not going to be talking at all tonight.
So it seems like he was supposed to be replacing Elizabeth May as party leader. It's very easy to switch up party leaders when your party holds 2 seats, but that might not be for much longer. Look, Green Party, there are very strict rules on what qualifies you into debates. You guys literally went out of your way to not meet those qualifications, and now they're complaining about it. Typical Green Party. You know what? You want to cry about it? Go hug a tree while you're at it. And speaking of hugging a tree, we're all going to be hugging ourselves soon because it doesn't look good for the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, came out earlier today and announced instead of raising interest rates or lowering interest rates, we're not doing anything because everything is A-okay, according to them. I personally don't feel like everything is A-okay, but hey, the professionals say it is, so it actually must be, right? Let's take a look at this announcement.
Shifting trade policy with the United States has also had a major impact on the latest interest rate decision from the Bank of Canada, which just came out this morning. The bank is holding it at 2.75%. But this decision was considered a close call by economists. The governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, says the path forward is still largely uncertain, given this country's changing relationship with the United States.
Since January, we've had a seismic shift in U.S. trade policy and a sharp increase in uncertainty. New tariffs are now in place on key Canadian industries and on every other U.S. trade partner. Financial markets in Canada and around the world have violently repriced and remain volatile. Households and businesses in Canada and beyond are bracing for weaker growth and higher prices.
And our Scott Peterson was watching all of this for us. Okay, so Tiff Macklem, during his statement there, he outlined a few different scenarios, two in particular, of how things might go. What did he say?
Yeah, I think the most profound thing that he said was that he really doesn't know what's going to go forward, like a lot of Canadians, like a lot of economists, and it all comes down to the White House, and it all comes down to that one person in the White House, and that's U.S. President Donald Trump, sort of outlining two different scenarios, one having to deal with the inflation of tariffs and how that slows the economy, and that combination of a slowing economy and rising prices is stagflation, and that's famously hard for any central banker to fight. But the Bank of Canada is a very simple mechanism. They have the ability to raise rates and to lower rates, and it's all about, as he reiterated this morning, price stability, and that's all it is. But for years, and I don't like using this analogy a lot, but it is like driving a large ocean liner, that you raise rates, you lower rates, and it takes sometimes years for that to trickle into the economy and to affect the economy. But now he's saying it is hard to plan for anything going forward. So he does see, as you mentioned, rising prices, a slowing economy, and he's used words like we're seeing a violently repriced economy, weaker growth, higher inflation, and in effect, stagflation. And so he said that the year started off well, but with the uncertainty, particularly with the White House, it's no more certain now than it was at the beginning of the year, and that is a famously difficult thing for not just economists, but certainly central bankers to plan when you have no ability to make plans.
And he was talking about those opposing pressures, and as you stated, an environment of rising prices. We know, of course, supply chains have been impacted, and that was one of the scenarios he laid out too, further implications there. So how does the Bank of Canada prepare for these scenarios?
You know,
potential scenarios.
Potential scenarios and potential scenarios and potential tariffs and potential unknowns on top of the unknowns that we already have. It's exactly right. He took question after question on that, and there's only so many ways he could answer the same question, is that we simply don't know, that they have the inability to plan for it. And there's an interesting quote that he did say that's basically, faced with uncertainty, there's the Bank of Canada is going to be less forward-looking than usual, and that's just basically saying that he's going to adapt a wait-and-see attitude, but already saying that he's seeing businesses being affected, their business growth is slowing, investment growth is slowing, higher prices can mean a loss to the housing market as well. So there's a lot of different things potentially being played out here that he just can't itemize on a balance sheet like he could possibly in the old days.
Thanks for this, Scott. That is the CBC. Scott Peterson.
And so there we go. Just more proof that no matter what our politicians say, no matter what our economists say, we are tied at the hip to America. I mean, they very clearly said, because of everything going on in America, we're going to be dealing with stagflation. Instead of rising the interest rates or lowering the interest rates, we are just waiting to see what happens with America. So I'm sure there's arguments for there's pros and there's cons, but what do you think about this? Are you happy with this? Are you upset with this? Let me know your reasoning down below in the comments. And now we're going to take a look at Doug Ford, who's talking about kind of controversial things. The first thing that he talks about is the free trade agreement. And then there's a question by a reporter where he says something that is probably not going to go over too well. But let's take a look at this first.
You talk about tariffs. My goodness, we've been tariffing each other, it seems, for decades, generations, actually. They reduce our national GDP by more than 7% and cost our economy up to $200 billion every single year. In other words, much like President Trump's tariffs, these trade barriers hurt our economy, drive away jobs and investment, and divide us from each other. With President Trump taking direct aim at Canada's economy, it can't be business as usual. These last few months have made it clear. As premiers, we need to work together to build a more united, more competitive, more self-reliant Canadian economy that creates jobs and prosperity here at home. That's why later today, as the next step in our plan to protect Ontario, we will be introducing the Protect Ontario Through Free Trade Within Canada Act. This legislation will remove all of Ontario's remaining exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And we're going to continue working with our 2 provinces to sign an MOU. And this will allow more certified workers from across Canada, including skilled tradespeople, more healthcare workers, to come and work in Ontario right away. We're also launching consultations to break down barriers for American healthcare workers, well-trained doctors and nurses, people who are fed up with how President Trump is governing, to come and work here in Ontario, work at both our great provinces, everywhere else in the country as well, as we continue hiring more doctors and nurses into our healthcare system. This legislation would and mean that Ontario automatically allows goods and services from another province to be sold right here in Ontario, provided that provinces treats Ontario goods and services the same way. So, to borrow an example from my friend Premier Houston, a frozen pizza made in Nova Scotia. You can tell this guy's in shape like Ray. He hasn't eaten too many pizzas like me. But anyways, I'll go with the frozen pizza. The frozen pizza made in Nova Scotia will be automatically recognized as a very safe to buy and eat here in Ontario. And to take that example one step further, if the truck driver who is moving those frozen pizzas is trained and certified in Nova Scotia, their credentials will be automatically recognized here in Canada as well, Ontario and Canada across the board there. These changes.
Yay, so you may not get arrested for buying, a few $100s of liquor in Ontario and transporting it to a vacation or even your home in a different part of the country. Yay, finally, in 2025, when we finally have reusable rockets to go into space and land back safely on the ground. Finally, Canada is breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. Yay, good for us. This is like 15, 20 years in the making. Like, this is absurd to me that our Canadian politicians haven't been actively advocating for this for longer than they have. It blows my mind, man. There's so much corruption in this country.
Changes would also allow direct-to-consumer sales of alcohol from anywhere in Canada, provided that other provinces or territory treats Ontario producers the exact same way. This will provide new products for Ontario consumers to enjoy and millions of new customers for Ontario products across Canada. And I'm just so pleased that my fellow premiers are here to join me today, because no single province can tear down these trade barriers alone. Instead, we need all 13 provinces and territories working together, along with the federal government, to build a stronger, more united Canada. That's why today, I'll be signing an agreement with Nova Scotia and an agreement with New Brunswick that support true free trade within Canada. These agreements are a blueprint, and they're a challenge to other provinces and territories to join us. It's a win for every business owner, a win for every worker, and every community held back by red tape and duplication. It's the right thing to do to protect Canada, to grow our economy, and create new jobs and opportunities across the country. Together, as a united Team Canada, we're going to get through this stronger and more united than ever before.
Shut the hell up with your Team Canada elbows up crap. Nobody cares. We don't have to be united under Team Canada. We can just be Canadians that are doing what's best for this country. It's so annoying that they put labels on things. And to show how serious of a person Doug Ford truly is, let's take a look at this next clip. I can't believe that he even said this.
Week defending Corey Tenayk ruffled some feathers in the conservative movement, to put it lightly. What do you say to those federal conservatives who feel you have betrayed them now and torpedoed Mr. Poilievre's chances here in the province? And did you say that to feed your own federal ambitions?
No, I have the greatest job in the world. I've said from day one, I'm not getting involved in this election. I never got involved in the other two federal elections. what I was doing is standing up for a friend, a campaign manager that brought 3 consecutive majority governments. Let the best person win, and make there's no secret out there. I'm a conservative. I have a blue sign on my lawn. Simple as that. But I've also shown I will work with anyone, no matter if it's the NDP mayor or a Liberal prime minister or my great Liberal premiers, NDP premiers, my Conservative premiers. I don't care about political stripes. I'm going to deal with someone who wants to do the best job for Ontario and protect their jobs, protect the families and the communities. So I think I've been pretty clear on that, but I'm staying out of that battle.
So you're personally supporting the Conservative candidate in your riding?
What I just said, our family, when I was born, folks, the doctor came along and stamped the C on my forehead. Just like I'm sure my colleagues, no matter if it's Chrystia Freeland or Dominic LeBlanc, they're Liberals, and that's fine. God bless them. I'm a Conservative. I'll always be a Conservative. Simple as that. And that's why our families voted all forever, before Moses. Moses was a Conservative, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how good that's gonna spew over with people. Seems a little bit offensive. I wouldn't consider Doug Ford at all to be a conservative. He can try to pander to conservatives, but we know that Ontario is not conservatives, and the fact that people are voting for him and these, and he's getting this massive re-election numbers, it just goes to show Ontario votes federally liberal but provincially conservative. Something doesn't add up. Okay, he's not a true conservative. He hasn't endorsed Pierre Poilievre. In fact, he's indirectly endorsed Mark Carney, who's a liberal. So when you're talking about being a true conservative, stamped at birth with the big C and saying that your family has been conservative pre-Moses is so disingenuous and kind of disgusting to say, if I'll be very frank. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the video. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about any of the topics that were covered. And again, if you want a matching sticker like the one here on my microphone, click the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. Use code SAVECANADA. You could copy and paste it because I put it in those link in the description or the pinned comment below. It's right there. Save Canada, 20% off. It's going to be done here soon, folks, so get it while you can. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.